I'm a very simple person, really. But I don't want people to know everything about me. No, I've got nothing to hide. It's just that I'm an actor, and as an actor, although I quite enjoy having my name stuck up on billboards, I also want to be not there. I like to be private. I like my life to be private, but on the other hand, there's been that urge to make new friends, thousands of friends, possibly, maybe enemies, and to be different people to all those people out there.
Hello, Stuart.
Enter Ego from the wings, pursued by fiends. Exit Ego. Ego, as a very young person with no professional experience, assumes that his natural place in the scheme of things is upstage center, but quickly learns that for a long time to come, he must be downstage, very much to the side, and with his back half turned to the audience. With the passing of years, he grows to rather like this position, and in later life, when he has a little to say in some theatre productions, he often expresses the wish to sidle into a play rather than take the bull by the horns. Deep in his heart, he hankers to be an artist of some sort, but he is only an actor. To be an actor was his adolescent dream and has been his means of livelihood for 50 years or more. He knows that an actor is usually no more than an assortment of odds and ends which barely add up to a whole man. An actor is an interpreter of other men's words, often a soul which wishes to reveal itself to the world but dare not, a craftsman, a bag of tricks, a vanity bag, a cool observer of mankind, a child, and at his best, a kind of unfrocked priest who, for an hour or two, can call on heaven and hell to mesmerize a group of innocents.
Come on in.
Shall I take your stick?
Allow me to introduce myself. Call me Dutch.
Very glad to see you, Ivor, very.
Bring me my little box, will you? I shall be in the library.
You're the boss?
Yes. Yes, that's right. I am.
Alec Guinness werd in 1914 geboren. Zijn niet al te gelukkige jeugdjaren bracht hij samen met zijn moeder door in verschillende stadjes aan de zuidkust van Engeland. Later kwam hij op een kostschool terecht in Eastbourne. Guinness heeft een schuchter, gesloten karakter en haat interviews. Toch raakte hij reeds als kind gefascineerd door het toneel.
When I was about 7, I was taken to see Nellie Wallace at the Coliseum. I didn't laugh much, but I was absolutely riveted by this aggressive, coarse, kind of parrot-like character. And she kept dropping her props, her fan, her handkerchief, whatever it might be. And every time she bent to retrieve them, the orchestra made raspberry sounds in the brass, and her look of outraged indignation, I thought was the funniest thing I'd ever known in life.
Was it then a direct line to the stage, or was there anything else that sort of nudged you along the way?
No, I mean, at school, obviously, well, at my prep school in Bournemouth, when I wanted to be in a school play, the headmaster said, you'd never be an actor. And I think I kind of learned something. A conjurer came to that school, and I didn't like him at all. I thought he was he did clever things which amused us. And he wanted me to sit on a chair, and under his breath, he wanted me to jump up, screaming. And he wanted overacting, and I knew, I must have been about 9, 10 by then. I just knew he was wrong, and that wouldn't get a laugh at all, and that everyone would know it was phony. So I did what he wanted. I sat on the chair, but I very slowly got up and kind of surreptitiously looked. And I got my laughs. And he was furious because I wasn't doing this kind of big screaming job. I've learned a lot from that.
Guinness ging van school af toen hij 17 was en kreeg een baan bij een reclamebureau in Londen. Al spoedig raakte de jonge copywriter geheel bezeten van het bruisende theaterleven in het West End.
I was, theatre mad, and certainly had been from the age of 15, 16, went to everything I could have, find a few shillings to go together. And certainly when I was in the advertising agency, I used to go twice a week to the theatre, I think, which was expensive for me. I mean, it was running myself very short of cash. Now, I wanted to be an actor, I just didn't know how to set about it. It was,
Which productions and people at the time most excited you, just before you committed yourself to this, trying to get this scholarship?
Here at the Albury Theatre, which was called then the New Theatre, I must have come, I don't know where it was, 12, 13, 14 times to see Gielgud in Richard of Bordeaux, which was here for about 18 months, I think, or maybe longer. And I used to sit way up in the gallery or stand up in the gallery.
Nog geen 1,5 jaar nadat Guinness vanaf het schellinkje zijn idool had bewonderd, stond hij op datzelfde podium naast hem. Brutaalweg had hij Gielgud opgebeld en hem om advies gevraagd. Gielgud had hem naar een toneelleraar gestuurd en later, na een jaar op de toneelschool, gaf diezelfde Gielgud aan de jonge acteur zijn eerste sprekende rol.
Come on from the left. No, the other left. Oh, somebody make him understand. Why are you so stiff? Why don't you make me laugh? The superb tenor voice, like a silver trumpet muffled in silk, kept up a rapid stream of commentary together with wildly contradictory instructions from the stalls, while I fumbled with my little temple edition of Shakespeare on the bare stage of the New Theatre, now the Albury. It took a whole morning to set a single page of the text. Gielgud's directions to the actors were interrupted frequently in full flight by his calling out to the designers, Sophie and Margaret Harris and Elizabeth Montgomery, the firm of Motley, Motleys! Would it be pretty to have it painted gold? Perhaps not. Oh, don't fidget, Frith Banbury. Alec Guinness, you're gabbling. Banbury, your spear is crooked. Now turn upstage. No, not you, you. Turn the other way. Oh, why can't you all act? Get someone to teach you how to act. And so the dreadful morning wore on, with me at the vulnerable age of 20, on the verge of tears, and acutely aware of other members of the cast of the 1934 Hamlet, Jack Hawkins, Jessica Tandy, Frank Vosper, George Howe, Laura Cowie, William Devlin, and George Devine, sitting on benches at the side of the stage, pretending to read their newspapers to hide their embarrassment, or perhaps just quaking in their shoes. Later that day, George Devine came in for a Gielgud lashing with, "Oh, why is your voice so harsh? It really is quite ugly. Do something about it." It was my first experience of being directed by my actor hero, benefactor, patron, and later good friend, who gave me my first proper chance in the theatre, cherished my barely visible talent, and kept me solidly employed for more than 2 years.
Can you describe why you here worshipped Gielgud and what qualities you found in him?
He was a great romantic. I mean, I don't think people realize now, although they admire him and love him and so forth, but I don't think they realize what a tremendous romantic actor he was. I mean, there was that beautiful voice, but really beautiful. And he brought on to wherever it was, walked onto the stage, and the whole place warmed up. And he was very good looking, very nice looking, not sort of beautiful, I don't suppose, but I mean, something of theatrical magic which knocked one sideways, and also witty.
With these qualities that you aspire to yourself, did you see yourself being Gielgud sweeping onto the stage?
Oh, I think practically every young actor in London was wearing hats like Gielgud and throwing their head back and trying to get into his productions and thinking that what would appeal to him was them doing imitations of him, which is, of course, not not what he wanted at all, I'm sure. But he was he was very impatient with the young, impatient of people's stiffness but very impatient of any slovenly speaking. I remember him, years later, not years later, but a year or two later, in York, I think, at a luncheon party he gave to the company, and he heard me ask, and I quote, for a vanilla ice. And down the table, spitting, he said, "There is no R in vanilla. Vanilla ice." You know, you never escaped it. I think everything for my generation stems back to Gielgud. And then that was qualified or given a new impetus by Guthrie. Tyrone Guthrie was the true enfant terrible of the British theatre of the 30s and 40s, and quite the tallest enfant terrible to be found in the English-speaking world, standing 6'4" in his socks. His height, his military haircut, very short back and sides, his clipped moustache, and everything except his sandals and old grey cardigan suggested a gentlemanly sergeant major who had slipped into something loose after a vigorous day of putting a bunch of rookies through some tough and complicated square bashing.
I do wish that all of you would please get away from the idea that acting's a kind of terrible drill with the director or sergeant major. It simply isn't so. Acting's invention, make-believe. Now this time, will you please cough up some ideas and let me say they're terrible? Back, going to do it again.
His rehearsals were always stimulating, usually great fun, often too much fun, perhaps, and always something to be looked forward to. They never became stodgy or finicky, and never deteriorated into the dreary academic lectures with which so many modern young directors feel impelled to bore their companies. There was a spontaneity in all he did, a kind of whirlwind of activity and invention. I don't think I ever saw him consult a script or catch him with notes in his hand. All was straight off the top of his head, blessed as he was with a phenomenal memory, both visual and oral.
I don't think on Buckingham men die.
Bob, I don't think this hand's a good idea. It looks as if you were, waiting for a handout. Remember, your head's been chopped off, and try and find some idea that'll express that.
When I moved over to work with Guthrie, who was totally different in his methods, Guthrie was wonderful with the young and laughed at any effort, encouraged any effort, hardly ever pulled you up, except for not being fast enough. Yeah, it was a sort of mania for speed. His fingers were clicking all the time. But he was impatient with the middle-aged and the elderly, Guthrie was. But it was wonderful at opening up the scene for young people. And so I was very lucky. I did about 4 productions with Gielgud, went to Guthrie for about 4, and then back to Gielgud again. So I got both these totally different approaches happening in my life. I think Guthrie was a more liberating influence, although, of course, Gielgud I owed my first chance to.
Were you a self-conscious observer of behaviour in the street around town and that sort of thing, and a collector of items and trifles for
Oh,
use?
yes, very much so. I mean, deliberately so. Probably wrongly, I would think, but largely out of having no money to spend or not knowing what to do with myself. I did follow people in the street, and if they stopped to look in windows, I did too, and try and sum them up, and particularly from the way they walked. I would think if I couldn't get into their character, at least I could get into their mood.
In het begin van zijn carrière is Alec Guinness de figuur van Hamlet regelmatig tegengekomen. Hij werkte mee aan de producties met John Gielgud en met Laurence Olivier in de titelrol. Later, in 1938, zou hij zelf Hamlet spelen onder regie van Guthrie. Dat was zijn eerste hoofdrol.
Gielgud's was the romantic one. And it was kind of, in a way, almost too much. I mean, I must have stood in the wings here in this theatre night after night for perhaps 150 nights watching almost all of it, unless I was changing to go on myself. And I knew every tone, inflection. I can't... I mean, it was the prince, it was the lovable, distressed, intelligent, romantic prince of all time, you know.
Here hung those lips which I have kissed I know not how oft. Where be your jibes now? Your gambols, your songs, your flashes of merriment that were wont to set the table on a roar. Not one now to mock your own grinning. Quite chop-fallen. Now get you to my lady's chamber, and tell her that her paint an inch thick. To this favor she must come. Make her laugh at that.
Larry's, in Guthrie's rather strange production, I think, at the Vic, was the athletic hero. I mean, it was a bit Douglas Fairbanksy. I think they had been influenced by, or Guthrie had certainly been influenced by, Professor Ernest Jones's psychoanalytical Freudian concept of things, and I think he imposed, or probably tried to impose, some of that on Larry. I don't think it made a heap of the difference, except that the kind of bedroom scene with the Queen was a bit sort of wild and Freudian.
Nay, but to live in the rank sweat of a lascivious bed, stewed in corruption, honeying and making love over the nasty sky.
To me no more. These words like daggers enter in mine ears no more, sweet Hamlet.
A murderer and a villain, a slave that is not 20th part the worth of your true lord, a cutpurse of the empire and the throne, that from a shelf the precious diadem stole and put it in his pocket. A king of shreds and passes.
Larry's was very electrifying, but he was always leaping off from high places, or the fights were tremendous. I understudied him when he was doing that. It'd been fatal if I'd had to have gone on. Fainted rather than throw myself off 12 foot of rostrum to be caught by a few people below.
Then venom to thy back!
Was there a sense in which the production which you did with Guthrie was reacting against both of those, then?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it was neither of them. My own feebleness was in being a bit ersatz Gielgud. I wasn't trying to be Gielgud, but I was so imbued with, 1934, when this was only 4 years later, that rather feeble bits of Gielgud kind of came through.
Why was the decision to do it in modern dress?
I don't know. I suppose Guthrie thought that it might suit me, or he sensed in me something, and indeed someone who would be amused and indeed thrilled to break away. And he also knew that I was not a romantic, and that I might be an anti-hero.
What could you do that you couldn't have done had you been in Doubleton Hose?
Well, let's put it this way. I think it enabled me to show different facets, to say the first soliloquy by oneself on the stand. I wore a uniform for that, I know. Kind of sitting on a stool or chair, and then to take a pocket handkerchief out and blow your nose and put it away again. I mean, maybe now I would find that vulgar, but at the time, I thought that does wonders for me, because they know that I've been in an emotional state, but controlling it, you know.
Yes.
Well, you can't do that in costumes. I mean, I'm not saying that's a marvelous thing, but it was those sort of little things which made it fascinating to work on.
Brilliant book that Kenneth Tynan wrote about your acting. He describes there a stripping away, a reacting against, and yet a continuing in. Did you go along with his comments on that?
Yes, fairly enough, because I think that's very much the way I've worked, maybe too much so.
Which is what? Just sort of...
Well, a kind of stripping away and getting rid of the unnecessary anything. I mean, I love economy in the arts. Of course, now and then something extravagant and so on. But I mean, my personal taste, I think, has nearly always been for finding something down, getting rid of the unnecessary gesture. There was a sweet chap who used to stand in for me in films, and when I would rehearse something, he would very often come and say, "Oh, I love the way you did that, Alec." That, you know, he was being sweet and generous and kind, but I would automatically think, "Oh no, if that was noticed, that must come out." And so I really relied on him a great deal for giving me praise for something which I knew must be stripped away immediately. And I've gone too far. Very often I've so stripped away a performance that, you know, people say, "Well, where's the performance? Where is it?"
Is this a reaction or a distaste for what is called great acting? Or
Yes.
does it also appeal to something rather profound in yourself?
There's nothing profound in myself. It's just a personal taste. I mean, I like a line drawing. You know, a very simple line that pleases me, and I love simplicity in acting. And one has seen marvelous acting of a simple nature. But you can go. You know, Shakespeare is, in the end, the Bible. You know, do not saw the air too much with your hand thus, but use all gently. For in the very torrent tempest and whirlwind of your passion, you must acquire and beget a gentleness. You know, he knew what he was talking about 400 years ago. And yet he also says, "Be not too tame neither." Well, very often I've been too tame neither.
He's done two plays of mine, Habeas Corpus and The Old Country. And in both cases, before he agreed to do them, there was a kind of wooing process in which a kind of very formal dance that you went through before it was decided that he would do it. I had several meetings with him on my own with the text, and he went through the text very carefully and asked me about it and asked me what I meant by this and that and the other. He then stripped down the text, and we'd throw out stuff that, and not in any. I mean, with some actors, I think they would say, "Well, I wouldn't be able to do that," or "I don't want to do that," and they'd also try and snip bits off other actors' parts and amalgamate them with theirs. There's none of that goes on. It's not to do with that, because he's not got that sort of vanity. What strikes me about him is that there's never been a satisfactory imitation of him. Peter Sellers used to do one, but you'd have to be told that he was him. It wasn't self-evident. Whereas Gielgud and Olivier and Richardson, I mean, there are stock imitations of them all. But there's nothing like that with Alec. He doesn't leave anything spare for the public outside his acting. And I think it's also to do with the fact that his acting isn't larger than life, so that it's therefore very difficult to imitate him.
I don't see myself how I could ever be successful as a flamboyant character. I mean, if I came out in a bow tie, I think I would shock people. I mean, it just doesn't suit me. I realize I do like to withdraw and backpedal and watch, and I enjoy being elusive. It isn't that I want to deceive anyone, but I don't want to be docketed and put in a pigeonhole, and that's that, and that's him, and that's all he's capable of. I must have been extremely arrogant. Donkeys years ago, perhaps 20 years ago, a script from Hollywood came saying, "This has been tailor-made for you." It was a lousy script. And I'm afraid I wrote back in sheer arrogance saying how interesting that it's tailor-made. No one has been to take the measurements. Because it was just old cliches. Stuff they thought that I can do with a quizzical look or a... and so I don't want to be... although I know that there is an area in which I can sort of play safely, now and then I do like to burst out. I did a film called Tunes of Glory, which was madness as casting, to play me as a drunken, heavy, boorish, Glaswegian, up from the ranks officer. But I think I got away with it. I love doing it. And I love the, for all my reticence, I hope, and cutting away, now and then I like to take a big breath and kind of semi-explode, anyway.
McKinnon!
Colonel?
For God's sake, smoke that bloody thing like a man. Stop puffing at it like a ruddy debutante. Go on, laddies, smoke it, smoke it. Draw it in, draw it in. Am I coarse, Simpson? Am I, Charlie? Away you go, lads, you're no so bad. You can have a drink. Oh, for Pete's sake, then, where's my whiskey?
Newsreel cameramen have already planted themselves on Sicily to capture the sight of incoming troops. For hours on end, the landing craft kept on coming in a never-ending flood.
Tijdens de oorlog diende Guinness bij de Koninklijke Marine. En in 1943 was hij commandant op een van de schepen die de geallieerde invasie op Sicilië uitvoerde.
When I landed with my ship, very hard. I've always maintained that I was the first to arrive because I never received the signal postponing the invasion for an hour. And I intrepidly went ahead with other ships following me. I knew exactly where to go. That for once I knew exactly where I was. And but I was stuck there. I'd gone on very hard on a sandy beach, and everyone else withdrew. This man turned up and said, "Why are you so late?" And I said I was, on the contrary, far from being late. I'd been the first to arrive. And then with that particular, well, what did you do in Civvy Street, sub? One wasn't awfully keen on being called sub in command of a, 250 tons and so forth, and a crew. And I said I was an actor. Well, then you automatically got the sneer, And then I lost my temper in a very cold way and said, if you'll excuse me saying so, sir, that I was an actor. I am a sub-lieutenant, Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve. But when I was in the theatre, if the curtain said it was going up at 8 o'clock in the West End, it went up at 8 o'clock and not an hour later, something from which I think the Royal Navy could learn. I risked a court-martial and all that. However, defeated, he went away. Rather like to pretend that I was him when drowning as a senior officer. Kind hearts and coronets.
Guinness woonde zijn halve leven in een afgelegen huis in de South Downs. Na de oorlog pakte hij zijn succesvolle toneelcarrière weer op, maar de stijl van acteren die hij gaandeweg had ontwikkeld maakte hem bijna nog geschikter voor de film.
I mean, you either act or you don't act. I don't want to go into the psychological reasons or into any depth about anything. It either happens or it doesn't happen. I wouldn't go to a psychoanalyst in case he unraveled something and said, and that is the springboard for such talent as you have. Because I would feel, oh, it was just that, was it? Instead of having a kind of almost magical, I don't mean me magical, but the actual job of it being, like an empathy with animals. Something you can't explain, something tucked inside.
Pocket?
Oh, dear me, I'm extremely sorry. But the fact is I've been out on your account, for I thought coming from the country you might like a little fruit. And I went to Covent Garden Market to get it good.
Well, thank you. It's very nice of you. Can I take the parcels? It sticks, you know.
Pray come in.
It was in that film that you made your debut with the major role as Herbert Pocket in David Lean's film of Great Expectations. Did you learn a lot in that first part? Was it a revelation to you? Was it something you've built
in
on
filming?
Since? Yes.
I was very nervous and very self-conscious, and there was one little scene in which I was required to laugh spontaneously at something that Johnny Mills did. And I found this agony because I feel it's coming, and tucked into the throat. And David, I know, had the camera running without me knowing. I mean, he had lots of little secret signs, and he said something or got me to laugh. So that was, I mean, that wasn't an acting job. That was a piece of cheating. But, you know, thank God he did it. I don't think I'm very self-conscious before a camera now. But I learned a lot from him. I learned to be, reticent in front of the camera, I suppose, when necessary.
Why did you so determinedly want to play Fagin?
I don't know, something, I mean, now and then I've wanted to play something very, very extravagant or different, and I reread Oliver Twist, not with the film in view. I think I just had reread it recently and thought I would love to have a stab at that.
You'd like to make pocket handkerchiefs as easily as the Artful Dodger, wouldn't you, my dear?
Yes, if you teach me, sir.
We will, my dear, we will. To work, Terry, Fred.
I think it's the only time I've taken a director out to dinner in an effort to persuade him. And he took a lot of persuading, and then finally I said, well, let me do a make-up in the theatre, in theatre terms. And Stuart Freeborn, who did the film make-up, came, watched that, and then I did a test.
The business with the boys, was that stuff you made up yourself? And
well, yeah, I mean, I think I made it all up, yes. I mean, using the Cruikshank drawings, you know, which are wonderfully evocative of gesture, of mood and feeling, and of course Dickens.
Sit down! Charlie, sit down!
Tussen 1949 en 1955 maakte Guinness een reeks van films in de Ealing Studios. De vooral komische en excentrieke karakters die hij daar speelde verschaften hem de reputatie van de man met de vele gezichten.
Ask him for a light, ask him the way, ask him anything, but keep him there. We must have those 30 seconds.
Edgar.
I beg your pardon?
Isn't one supposed to say that when one's being briefed on my rare visits to the cinema?
The word is Roger.
Can't you appreciate that Mrs. Wilberforce is not a mere appendage to my plan, she's the very core of it?
There was my employer, Lord Escoyne d'Escoyne. There was Admiral Lord Horatio d'Escoyne. There was General Lord Rufus d'Escoyne. There was Lady Agatha d'Escoyne. And in the pulpit, talking interminable nonsense, the Reverend Lord Henry d'Escoyne.
The life cut short was one rich in achievement and promise of service to humanity.
The d'Escoynes certainly appear to have accorded with the tradition of the landed gentry and sent the fool of the family into the church.
There was a stage in the Ealing comedies where one of the things you became known for was the man who could disguise himself as often and as variously as he wanted. And you look expression of what can only be described pain and boredom came across your face at that reminder, but it did happen for a while, and we as an audience delighted in it. You must have taken a lot of care with it and enjoyed it at that time.
I think that was very much a period of heavy disguises, and I used to think, well, I'll try and look like I imagine that person to be. But I got saddled through publicity with the rank organization, I suppose, with, they didn't know what to do with me. I mean, I wasn't a handsome juvenile, I wasn't a fine-looking leading man, and so they invented, after one's changed one's makeup, just look slightly different twice, a man of 1,000 faces. Absolutely not true, of course. And I've done several films with no makeup at all. And now it's the minimum I use. I prefer to let it come from inside, if it comes at all.
What about the thing that many screen actors say, or stage actors say, that when they go into films, they have to play it down, that the less the better, a no gesture is the best gesture to make, and so on. Do you find that true, or?
I don't think I do anything different. I think a decent performance on the stage is absolutely the same in front of the camera, and vice versa. If it's phony, it's going to come out phony in both cases.
Can I come out now? Give me time to get away. There was a policeman from the bar. Maybe a bit suspicious.
You might have recognized my legs under the door. Do you think we ought to change trousers?
Wouldn't look natural, old man. Still, you're getting the idea. Come and see me at 10 o'clock tonight. Room 506, Capri Hotel. Sign official secret acts, all that rubbish.
You don't really think I'll come, do you?
$150 a month and expenses, old man. Tax-free.
I mean, Coward was a great one for, saying to very modern young actors, all I ask you to do is to learn the lines and not bump into the furniture. Which, it sounds sort of facetious or nothing. But I don't like clumsy acting. I don't like clumsy actors. And, it was good. It's good advice in a way. It's purely practical.
Do you see an opposition between, as it were, character acting and... Is this a made-up thing?
They should be the same, and I think now, if I played a kind of fairly vivid character, it probably would be more true than it would have been 20 or 30 years ago. I would be less concerned with the eccentricities and more trying to be real in myself. I mean, less concerned with the externals of a character.
Real in yourself means some kind of bell goes off.
Well, something where you recognize that as a human being. I hate talking about actors,
You ask yourself what the sum total of your life represents. What difference your being there at any time made to anything. Or if it made any difference at all, really. Particularly in comparison with other men's careers. I don't know whether that kind of thinking is very healthy, but I must admit I've had some thoughts on those lines from time to time. But tonight, last. I must be off. The men are preparing some sort of entertainment.
Alec Guinness won een Oscar voor zijn rol in The River Kwai. Later kreeg hij ook nog een Oscar-nominatie voor zijn scenario van The Horse's Mouth. In 1958 werd hij geridderd. Als internationale ster werd hij nu ook gevraagd voor monsterproducties als Lawrence of Arabia, Brother Sun, Sister Moon en Star Wars. In theater en films speelde hij historische figuren als Hitler, Dylan Thomas, koning Charles I en Sigmund Freud. Maar zijn veelzijdige talent manifesteerde zich in iedere rol, of het nu een vrouw, een priester, een spion of een officier was.
I don't like playing weak characters, I suppose because I'm frightened of my own weaknesses. I'd much rather play a strong man and see how strong I can be, but not necessarily heroic.
How far do you feel able to play characters with whom you can't sympathize very fully?
Well, in a funny way, I rather like that more. Hitler. I did a lot of research work on that. I have no sympathy with Hitler, but I did want to present him not as some outer space monster, but as a man, because, you know, this is a dangerous area, and men can become Hitlers, not people from outer space. I suppose the Colonel in Tunes of Glory. Well, I had a certain sympathy with that, in a way, but I mean, he was a monster also. I rather like something which is against myself. I mean, maybe I can be a monster, but I mean, not in that way.
Do you feel you call out things in yourself, though, when you're playing monsters, as it were?
I don't know where they come from.
They must come from somewhere. I mean, do you feel you're tapping reserves or unused and unusable parts of your personality?
Possibly.
You are to imagine you have been put on a train, Olga. Your destination something of mystery. The train travels day and night for the best part of a week, finally is shunted into a siding. You try and see out. It's the middle of the night. Lights nearby? Loudspeakers? At dawn, the doors are slid back, and you fall out onto the platform, look round, and see this. Now, where would you say you were?
In the old country, it became his own in a peculiar way, in that it's about a couple who discovered, seemingly in the English country, deep in the English countryside, with Elgar playing on a typical English summer afternoon, and it gradually emerges that they're actually outside Moscow and that he's a defector. But in some sense, he kind of made it like his own life, in a way, made it like his own country existence.
It's the common at Purbright, as seen from the Salisbury train, or half a dozen places in Hampshire.
Purbright's in Surrey.
Well, Aldershot, then. Were you ever in Aldershot?
No?
Yes, we were. We had a Chinese meal there one Sunday afternoon.
That sounds as if it could be Aldershot.
In a bit the same way, he's made Smiley like himself. I mean, it seems to me that Le Carré, the last Smiley novel, he's written it as if Alec Guinness has always been Smiley, whereas Smiley in the earlier books was a very different sort of character.
I'm inclined to think, or have thought in recent years, that you've only got to think and something will come over. And I did that rather excessively, I think, in the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and Smiley's People. But it was a difficult assignment because, you know, you couldn't give away to the person you were interrogating what you were getting at. So the face had to remain a blank. And I thought, this suits me down to the ground. I just be a blank and stay a blank. That's what happened. Was the offer of information from General Stevchik genuine?
Good Lord, no. It was a fix from start to finish. Stevchik existed, of course. Still does. Very distinguished man. But he never offered anything to Control or anybody else.
Did you expect Control to send Jim Prideaux?
Well, obviously we needed to be certain Control would rise to the bait. We had to spell it out. Got to send a big gun to make the story stick. And we knew he'd only settled for someone outside London Station. Someone he trusted.
And someone who spoke Czech, of course. Unless trickery is done, I don't think the camera lies. I mean, something emerges. And if you're acting truly and thinking on the right lines, I hope that that comes through. It may be a tilt of the head unconsciously. I mean, purely from concentration inside, it might be anything. I suppose it gets expressed in physical terms, but in ways which one's not aware of. A look in the eye. I find now, I'm sure, that it's other people who do the acting for me. I mean, a lovely actor you're playing a scene with, if he's concentrating and doing his best, it's so easy to go with him. I've just had that experience working with Leo McKern, whom I only knew, I mean, I've seen him a lot, of course, but only knew vaguely. And we got on terribly well, and he was absolutely wonderful to work with because it was so concentrated. All I had to do was listen when he was speaking. I didn't have to do a thing. Ah, that's true. Or, I mean, nothing, just listen. And I hope that comes over.
He's traveling incognito.
Why incognito?
Because he has that sort of humility which is often to be found in holy men.
Where have you come from?
The Monsignor has been praying at the tomb of the Generalissimo.
Is that true?
Well, yes, I did say a prayer or two.
Oh, several prayers. One would hardly be enough.
What do you mean, not enough?
God can be hard of hearing.
Give me your papers.
Since the war, there have been a great number of changes in the British theatre. In your experience, what has been the greatest effect of these changes and developments?
Well, the architecture of the theatres, which is, I think, largely brought about by Guthrie's influence, and the open stage whereby playwrights have not had to rigidly stick to sets, curtain going up, curtain coming down. They have greater freedom, but I'm not sure that that's not coming to an end.
A good idea of the 30s has, in a sense, outlived its time.
I think so. I think it could be dying, or it should be dying, and something new. I can't think what, but yet a new form of theatre, or some compromise. Well, what do actors know about theatres? Well, frankly, more than anyone. You know, it's our home. It's where we live. It's where we make up, spend hours of each day, you know, rehearsing and playing at night. Architects, it seems to me, just sort of, their knowledge of theatre is on a drawing board, and not always very good knowledge of that. I mean, I don't want to be hidebound. I love the old theatres, but I welcome the new, but I would like it to be new again. You know, we need to change once more, and again and again.
Do you feel very comfortable on a stage? Do you feel it's still home? I mean, is it more home to you than a film set, as it were?
Oh, yes, I'm afraid so. Well, a film set is always different. I mean, you know, oh, it's a brilliant set, and oh, it's so real and so marvelous, but a stage with nothing on it before the scenery is there. I mean, even walking up onto this stage, I immediately felt, although I don't know the theatre, at home. I mean, I know where to go in given circumstances. I know where to, I mean, it's just home for me. My feet feel both solid and light on the ground.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. The words of Mercury are harsh after the songs of Apollo. You that way, we this. hate talking about actors, you know. And I'm always embarrassed when I find actors, usually young actors, of course, talking about their method, how they do it. I mean, I don't like that myself, and I don't like to inflict it on other people. In recent years, or perhaps for the last 20-odd years, I don't think I give it a thought much.